Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. Trouble for Ivorian Electoral Commission as voters shun ongoing registration exercise.
I urge you to fully engage in raising awareness. Speak as much as possible to our compatriots who are not yet registered on the electoral roll, encouraging them to do so.
Liberia's opposition increases attempt to remove House of Representatives Speaker Fonati Kofa.
The same majority will that elected him to ascend to that power had realized that his leadership is not functioning properly.
Mali and Tuareg rebels say drone attack kills at least 8 in northern region of Timbuktu, and doctors in Sierra Leone threaten to embark on an indefinite strike over unpaid allowance. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners across the sub-region. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where ahead of the October 25 presidential election, voters are failing to show up at registration centers to have their names registered in the run-up to the polls. 2 days after the start of registration operations, some centers are struggling to even see the shadow of an applicant. This was announced Tuesday by the president of the Independent Electoral Commission, Coulibaly Kibet. Speaking at the guests of the press club organized by the National Union of Journalists of Côte d'Ivoire, Kibet appealed to journalists to continue raising awareness on the need for people to go out to get registered. Albin Ade has more details in this report, voiced by Christopher Teacher.
During this meeting held at a press house located in Abidjan Plateau, the president of the Independent Electoral Commission, CEI, said he had noted a low rate of enthusiasm from the population since the beginning of the operation. According to Coulibaly Koubian, there are even census locations that have not received any applicants.
Based on
reports from 75% of the census locations over the first 2 days, we have recorded the following. 105,866 applicants have visited our counters. 304,156 applicants are voters requesting modifications to their personal data or changes to their voting locations. 5,420 applicants are first-time voters. Unfortunately, as of yesterday, 577,818 census locations have been recorded with cases of applicants.
The president of the CEI therefore urged media men to be more committed to raising awareness among the population.
During this period of electoral roll revision, I urge you to fully engage in raising awareness. Speak as much as possible to our compatriots who are not yet registered on the electoral roll, encouraging them to do so and explaining the importance of these operations. Registering on the electoral roll is a right that should not be neglected. I hope I can count on you to significantly increase the number of registered voters.
The electoral registration operation, which began on October 19, will continue to November 10.
Christopher Teacher voiced that report sent in by our Abidjan correspondent Albin Ade. Meanwhile, Mr. Ibrahim Coulibaly Kibet had explained the circumstances under which former President Laurent Gbagbo of the PPACI may not be able to run for office due to his removal from the Ivorian Electoral Register. The president of the Independent Electoral Commission stated that the removal of Gbagbo from the electoral list is not a personal matter. He explained that there is a list that the Ivorian Minister of Justice gives to the IEC, which is used to extract from the electoral register people who have been deprived of their civil and political rights. In addition, he said the Minister of the Interior communicates to seized persons in order to remove them to establish a definitive electoral list. He noted, while insisting that this decision is not the work of the CEI and this is always done in conjunction with all the central commissioners of the institutions. Sentenced to 20 years in prison in the BCL robbery case during the 2010-11 post-election crisis, Laurent Gbagbo was removed from the electoral roll. Although he has benefited from a presidential pardon since August 2022, this does not allow his admission to the electoral roll. In Liberia, amid the current political upheaval on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Fonati Kofa is facing increasing opposition, suffering another political setback due to his inability to secure a quorum. The anti-Kofa bloc led by Nimba County Representative Samuel Koga commands the allegiance of 43 representatives, just 6 members short of the number needed to activate their strongly worded resolution. From Monrovia, Grace Joshua completes the story.
The resolution accuses Kofa of conflict of interest, unilateral selection of Liberian representative to the ECOWAS Parliament, and budgetary overspending while serving as deputy speaker, among other allegations. Anti-Kofa lawmakers issued a direct warning to Deputy Speaker Thomas Fowler, urging him to join their bloc or risk losing his position. These lawmakers, united in their effort to unseat the speaker, gathered in the joint chambers of the legislatures, signaling their clear intent to challenge Kofa leaderships. The situation has placed the speaker in a precarious position as the majority bloc continue to push for his removal.
The same majority will that elected him to ascend to that power had realized that his leadership is not functioning properly. The like-minded lawmakers are conglomerated and sum their decision into a resolution that they can no more sit under the gabble of J. Funati Kofa as a speaker.
At the same time, a group of lawmakers supporting Speaker Jonathan Funati Kofa were forced to suspend their session on Tuesday after failing to meet the required quorum to conduct official businesses. Despite the low turnout, the lawmakers under Speaker Kofa leadership voted on a motion to add a whole session on every scheduled day or seek legal advice to compel absent lawmakers to attend. According to the roll call, only 30 lawmakers were present, short of quorum needed to proceed. Deputy Speaker Thomas Fowler, who has been accused of co-masterminding the plan to remove Speaker Kofa, remains silent during the proceedings. On Tuesday, October 22, the legislative sitting was still due to the lack of quorum, demonstrating significant political momentum in the effort to remove Kofa from his leadership position. Speaker Kofa managed to gain the support of only 30 of his colleagues, falling short to require simple majority needed to conduct official business. For West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
We turn our attention now to Ghana, where some economists have expressed worries about developments in the parliament that could heighten investment uncertainty about the direction of the economy. According to them, there are critical fiscal policies that must be examined by Parliament and pass on time, but could be delayed by the disagreement between the two major parties, the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party, on who has the majority in Parliament. This, they say, is one that could send bad signals to investors and businesses seeking to operate in Ghana. It follows the indefinite suspension of Parliament by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagby, in a stalemate between the two major parties in the House regarding who has a majority seat. Here is Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the USA, Williams Prepa, speaking about how this can affect investors' confidence in Ghana.
For every investor, you think of looking for a country that has good governance and stable governance at work. And good governance, the major element that's used to measure good governance is how functionary your institutions are working. And in governance, the three main functionaries are the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. These are known as the three-legged stool. So if you have one of the stool shutting down and refusing to work or collapsing, as it has happened in the case of Ghana, where the parliament says that they have suspended all sittings until when, we don't know whether indefinitely or until the term of this parliament ends. It becomes a major challenge for investors because they see that laws-making bodies will not be in place, and there are only two legs that are going to work in Ghana, and this is not augur well for good governance. So in terms of lawmaking, and this is going to really affect the country. We know there are already some tax bills and government revenues agenda that must be handled. Also, the incoming of it for first quarter is also hanging. So this is really not good for Ghana, and it may jeopardize the gains we have, the confidence gain we had for some time now.
That was Williams Prepper, an Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the USA. Well, we do have more on that conversation much later on the news. At least 8 people, including children, were killed and 20 injured in a drone strike at the fair on Tuesday in Mali's northern Timbuktu region. The rebel coalition, known as the Permanent Strategic Framework for the Defense of the People of OSIWA, said in a statement that a Turkish drone had carried out several strikes on a local market and civilian dwellings. The CSP-DPA blamed Mali's army and its allies for the attack. Mali's armed forces did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the incident. However, the Tuareg are an ethnic group that inhabits the Sahara region, including parts of northern Mali, and is fighting for an independent homeland. The separatist group launched an insurgency against Mali's junta government in 2012, but the rebellion was later hijacked by Islamist groups. Staying in Mali, the Ministry of National Education submitted its work on Tuesday to the Interministerial Committee for Crisis and Disaster Management. The meeting, chaired by Malian Prime Minister Senegal Maiga, aimed to set a date for the start of the school year. After noting progress, the Malian government decided to propose November 4 as a start date for the school year to the president of the Malian transition. According to Amadou C. Savane, the Malian Minister of National Education, all directors of educational academies are in favor of resuming classes on this date. Here is Amadou C. Savane.
Au regard de la présence de sinistrés dans certaines écoles, la sensibilisation...
Given the presence of significant issues in some schools, raising public awareness is essential to achieve the complete reopening of all schools as soon as possible. Regarding the flooded schools, their situation is as follows. The number of schools cleared of water, 137 out of 147. Number of flooded but non-functional schools, 6 out of 147. Number of schools still flooded, 44 out of 147. For schools that are damaged or collapsed, the Education Academies are setting up temporary learning spaces with the support of communities or partners.
Les académies d'enseignement sont en train d'installer les espaces d'apprentissage temporaires avec l'accompagnement des communautés ou de partenaires.
In light of the above, the directors of the education academies have been asked to give their opinion on the possibility of reopening on November 4, 2024. They have all confirmed that the conditions are met for an effective reopening of this date.
Novembre 2024. Ils ont tous affirmé que les conditions sont réunies pour une rentrée effective à cette date.
Amadou C. Savane is the Malian Minister of National Education. And back here in Senegal, as the General Assembly of Public Transport continues in Diamniadio, not far from Dakar, the capital, launched this Monday. This meeting brings together transport stakeholders who are thinking about how to improve the sector. Several topics have already been discussed, such as the renewal of the vehicle fleet, the fight against traffic accidents, among others. According to road safety expert Ibrahim Anjongo, the ills plaguing the sector are numerous, and so are the expectations. He spoke with WDL's Demba Amayan.
He doesn't say it's the first time we've heard about the general details of transport in Senegal. It's clear to everyone that there are too many accidents and too many issues on our roads. Even within the organization of transport across all sectors, there are persistent problems that make the situation today akin to a ticking time bomb. Therefore, he is aware of the general details from OSIWA today at the level of the Trom-Rem Authority to build on the conclusions and implement them effectively as everyone agrees.
Lors de la cérémonie d'ouverture, le président de la République...
During the opening ceremony, the President of the Republic spoke about accidents. He said that everyone involved will be held accountable to put an end to these accidents. But what do you think should be done?
Les accidents, selon vous, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire?
Administratively, the conditions of the country's driving plan and the road control, which is the last factor of the authorities' safety, will also be optimized. So it's a whole system. It's not just the Minister of Transport. He's not there only for the transporters or the drivers. He's someone who oversees a department and is a comprehensive department. We need to consider the funder, public transport and private transport. Each segment of transport must operate within its domain without negatively impacting others.
That was Ibrahim Anjogo, a road safety expert, speaking with Demba Ma'an. 19 travelers, including 5 personnel from the Nigerian Air Force, NAF, died in a tragic auto crash on Tuesday in Hawan Kibo in Riom local government area of Plateau State, north central of the country. The accident occurred along the Jos-Akwanga Expressway when an 18-passenger hiace bus traveling from Yola to Abuja collided with a stationary articulated vehicle. According to the Federal Road Safety Corps FRSE, the impact was attributed to high speed, resulting in the death of the bus driver and all passengers. NAV spokesman Olushola Akingboyewa confirmed that the personnel were en route to a sporting event when the incident happened. He stated that support protocols have been activated by the NAF to assist the bereaved families. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar and across the partner stations in the South region. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Trouble for Ivorian Electoral Commission as voters shun ongoing registration exercise. Liberia's opposition increases attempt to remove House of Representatives Speaker Fonati Kofa. Mali and Tuareg rebels say drone attack kills at least 8 in northern region of Timbuktu. Still in the news, doctors in Sierra Leone threaten to embark on an indefinite strike of unpaid allowance. We do have the press review, a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Don't forget you can listen to us live on wadr.org and follow our live stream on YouTube and Facebook. The former president of the Gambian Bar Association, Saliu Tal, has appealed to President Adama Barrow to drop civil charges against 2 journalists who have been charged for false publication and broadcast. The human rights activist Tal also called on President Barrow to use his authority to get the police drop their charges against the editor-in-chief of The Voice newspaper, Musa Sharif, and reporter Mohammed Dabo. The 2 journalists who were arrested and detained before release on bail were charged with false publication and broadcast after a report which claims President Barrow has chosen his successor ahead of the 2026 presidential election.
Today, in today's Gambia, 2 journalists have been charged in the criminal courts and also being sued in the civil courts for simply saying that, writing a story that alleges that the incumbent has an anointed successor. It is rather unfortunate that citizens, or anybody for that matter, particularly journalists who are the purveyors of information, can be charged, detained, and also taken to court, civil court. So I'm really calling on the government to really drop the charges in the criminal court, and I'm calling on the president personally to be magnanimous and discontinue his civil suit against these 2 journalists. And I'm calling on all the journalists and all right activists to make this their business. The freedom of expression is the cornerstone of all rights. We cannot be in our nice, cozy air-conditioned rooms talking about African Charter, talking about access to information, talking about Constitution. When, as we speak today in this Gambia, our colleagues have to worry about paying legal fees to fight a multi-million dollars lawsuit and risk going to jail for an obnoxious colonial act that makes it criminal to publish a story that may not be true. So I'm calling on the government to really, particularly the president, to use his powers and authority to drop the charges, to get the IGP to drop the charges and to discontinue the civil suit.
Former president of the Gambia Bar Association, Saliu Tal, speaking there. In Sierra Leone, the satisfied members of the Medical and Dental Association, MDA, have announced plans to initiate a sit-down strike this Wednesday if the Minister of Health does not provide their long-awaited fuel allowance. This announcement came during a press conference held on Tuesday. Echatiso has the rest of the story.
According to Dr. Fred Cole, president of the association, they have been frustrated over the prolonged negotiations with the authorities, stating that efforts to resolve the issue have been unsuccessful. He emphasized that if the ministry fails to address the doctors' allowances nationwide, medical services will be halted until their demands are met.
If we start any constructive engagement before the 21 days, even if we don't agree, we may consider extending or sending the ultimatum. I think that was very clear, honestly, you know. And we sent those correspondences to the ministry together with our proposed MOU. In the MOU went on the 30th of September and the letter went on the 3rd of October. That time almost 3 weeks now. Unfortunately, since that time, we never got any feedback.
Dr. Cole also explained that while there are multiple issues to be addressed, the focus will begin with the fuel allowances as a starting point, with plans to tackle other concerns later. He reassured the public that the strike is not intended to undermine the government, but is aimed at preventing a brain drain in the healthcare sector. Dr. Cole also noted that the strike will not affect critical patient care in hospitals as they have measures in place to manage urgent cases, but stressed that the strike will proceed as planned and continue indefinitely until their demands are met.
Ejatisu filed that report. In Cameroon, President Paul Biya has appointed new judges to the military court in the country. The appointment was made on Tuesday. By this decree, the head of state is strengthening the country's military judicial system. In total, 4 military courts are affected by this appointment made by the head of state. These are the military court of Eboloa, Garoua, Maroua, and Ngaudere. Report have said the newly promoted magistrate will be tasked with ensuring the proper function of military justice in their respective jurisdictions and contributing to strengthening the rule of law.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Let's head back to Banjul as we join Sankli Janko for the Newspaper Review.
Hello there and welcome to this edition of the Press Review coming to you from Banjul, the Gambia. And we would like to begin with the Fourier newspaper for this edition of the Press Review. And the lead story on the Fourier newspaper reads, GPU unveils the state of the media in the Gambia to the African Commission. GPU, of course, is the Gambia Press Union, the umbrella body for pressmen and women in the Gambia. GID intercepts over 70 people bound for irregular migration. That is Gambia Immigration Department, GID, according to this report, intercepted over 70 people who are bound for irregular migration to Europe. This other one reads, KMC's HR manager testifies on improper appointments. That's another story on the Fourier newspaper. Access to Information Commission celebrates International Access to Information Day. WFP engages Assembly Select Committee on Environment and Climate Change. MOPSI to develop unique synchronized sign language. That's according to this report. Let's move on to the Standard newspaper for today. And the lead story on the Standard newspaper reads, Italy announces plans to repatriate Gambian migrants, designates country as safe. That is the lead story on the Standard newspaper. Public trust in OP Assembly Judiciary weakened. That is according to Afrobarometer survey. Let's take a look at the final newspaper for today, and that is the Point newspaper. And the lead story on the Point newspaper reads, Court visits Paulo Jabi's seized vehicles. Paulo Jabi is accused of drug trafficking and is currently facing charges at the High Court of the Gambia. Access to information key in fostering good governance. That's another story. This other one reads, Gambia welcomed 4,200 refugees from 21 countries. GPU tasked ACHPR to engage government on draconian laws. GID intercepts 76 suspected migrants in 24 hours. And this other one says, Morocco hosts first global AI conference on chemical weapons. I'm afraid these are the major stories making headlines on Gambian dailies. Let's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Uncle Janko, with a newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
We'll return to Ghana in this interview segment on the worrying development in Parliament with experts like Associate Professor of Finance at the Andrews University in the USA, Williams Peprase, could heighten investment uncertainty about the direction of the economy. According to Prof. Pepra, there are critical fiscal policies that must be examined by Parliament and passed on time, but could be delayed by the disagreement between the two major parties.
For every investor, you think of looking for a country that has good governance and stable governance at work. And good governance, the major element that's used to measure good governance is how functionary your institutions are working. And in governance, the three main functionaries are the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. These are known as the three-legged stool. So if you have one of the stool shutting down and refusing to work or collapsing, as it has happened in the case of Ghana, where the parliament says that they have suspended all sittings until when we don't know whether indefinitely or until the term of this parliament ends. It becomes a major challenge for investors because they see that laws-making bodies will not be in place, and there are only two legs that are going to work in Ghana, and this is not augur well for good governance. So in terms of lawmaking, and this is going to really affect the country. We know there are already some tax bills and government revenues agenda that must be handled. So this is really not good for Ghana, and it may jeopardize the gains we have, the confidence gain we had for some time now.
Okay, so with the House of suspension indefinitely, we know the Finance Minister is expected to present the 2025 budget in Parliament in November. And of course, we are also with the IMF. How do you see things playing out here? And what are the repercussions on the economy in terms of our creditworthiness, servicing our loans, among others?
I mean, so if we don't have the appropriation bill passed for first quarter of 2025, it means that some major expenses will not be able to have the legal backing to honor them. We have our interest payment due for first quarter to Eurobond holders. This may, if we don't have Parliament to approve the budget for first quarter, it's going to put us back to the default state that where we were. This signal, as it's happening, if bond rating agencies will be looking at it and saying that is Ghana going to default again? So that is one angle, because we don't have the legal backing. And also, will workers be able to receive their salaries? Another.
That was Professor Prepra there of the University of Andrews in the USA. There is Sport News with Sangule Janko.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football (CAF) has reinstated Sierra Leone and Guinea-Bissau into the WAFU Zone A on the 17th qualifying tournament in Chess, Senegal. The decision came after a second MRI test was conducted on the players that had failed the initial test. And recall on Sunday, WAFU announced that Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau and Guinea would not take part in the tournament due to age cheating, according to the new rule outlined in Article 27.4 of the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations regulations. However, on Monday evening, the West African Football Union, WAFU, and the CAF medical team reversed their decision after a satisfactory medical test confirmed Sierra Leone and Guinea-Bissau's eligibility to compete in this year's Under-17 AFCON qualifiers. The new rule states in Article 27.4, if after carrying out the eligibility test MRI for a participating team, one or more of its players are deemed eligible, the participating team will be disqualified. Sierra Leone has been requalified to participate, having met the necessary criteria after 2 of the 5 players in question were cleared. Additionally, Guinea-Bissau has also been reinstated and will compete in the WAFU Under-17 tournament in Senegal. In a statement dispatched by a continental body, Guinea remained disqualified as their results showed their number of failures to be higher than the required quota of 3. That's it for sports. It's back to you.
And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukudi Maudojuf for the technical support. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening.